This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Riker's swagger gets him in trouble.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that's as true as you remember it being. I am Gepwin. I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Izixs.
Hi.
And this week we have courtroom drama on the holodeck.
Indeed. Wait, that's not how I remember it, Gepwin.
No? Do you remember it being troubling implications that we're going to have to get into about sexual assault? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, there's going to be some of that sort of, vibe in here. So just a warning, everybody.
Yeah. Why does Star Trek keep making me talk about sexual assault?
Because it's unfortunately one of those things that's, far too common.
Yeah, but they don't want to talk about it that way in here. It's just, I guess because it's unexamined tropes from the 90s. It's one of the few places that old Star Trek fails to hold up, even slightly.
Yeah, this is a little creepy, the implications here, and it's going to make us feel uncomfortable.
So this is the episode, A Matter of Perspective, which is the one where you get to see 4 different versions of how something on a space station went down.
Mm-hmm. But this does not involve time travel, so,
Yeah, it's just everyone describing things, and they're using the holodeck so that you can see it instead of just having to listen to people describe things for an hour.
Indeed, which I think is a rather novel approach to collecting witness testimony, but it is also perhaps possible to have produce an unfortunate bias in the any sort of jury that might be taking this in.
Yeah, but bias seems to be the main thing with this particular judicial system, which I guess we'll get to.
Yes. It's one of those, wonderful, highly enlightened judicial systems in Star Trek that's, horrific and, shoot first, ask questions later sorts.
Yeah. I'm also going to say, there might be background noise on my end for the episode. I apologize. It's 95 degrees in Brooklyn. It's not supposed to be 95 degrees. And I will die if I don't have the air conditioner on while I'm recording things.
Yeah, so, anyone who doesn't like the air conditioning, you want Gepwin to die, you bastards.
So this episode was written by Ed Zuckerman, who wrote some episodes of Law & Order, which makes sense, and that's all I can find. He also wrote some episodes of Law & Order.
So, I guess if you're going to be doing a courtroom drama sort of thing here, this would be the sort of writer to get. He also did some episodes of co-executive producing of various other things like JAG and more Law and Order. The Whole Truth, he was executive producer. Also, Fantasy Island, he was a co-executive producer.
Oh, jeez. All right, so he didn't write because he executive produced it.
He also did other writing, of course, but yeah, most of it, same sort of stuff here. Joe looks like something courtroom drama-y, I guess.
So yeah, you've got courtroom dramas and courtroom dramas in space.
Yep. No, this is one of their earlier writing gigs, so that's interesting.
It's got, I don't know what the equivalent of typecasting is for writers.
Genre writers, sort of, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We have guest stars. This is a guest starry episode, even though it's kind of a bottle episode as well. It's kind of interesting that way, I guess.
Yeah.
We've got
just one set.
We've got Craig Richard Nelson as Crag. He had his first film role in The Paper Chase, where he plays a mean-spirited law student, and went on to several other movies like My Bodyguard and something called Hunt and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I can't remember who he was in that, but he was in that. Also had guest roles in 90s TV shows, Golden Girls, Law & Order. He'll be in Star Trek Voyager later.
Yes, as some sort of Vascan ambassador, I believe. Oh, more law and mystery stuff. Diagnosis Murder.
Yep. Yeah, the guy who plays the cop in this, surprisingly, was in a lot of mystery shit.
Yep.
Diagnosis Murder was a weird show.
A little bit. My mom liked it a lot. She was, I guess, a fan of, its lead actor there.
Well, I like that guy too, but I don't. I don't know anything about it. But Pushing Up Roses just did a YouTube thing about an episode where it's literally supernatural shit, like the killer is a vampire style thing.
Wow. And not like the like the alternative lifestyle folks that are just really gothy and demand that everyone drinks blood sometimes.
No, like full on can fly, immortal, etc.
Well, I think Diagnosis Murder is a part of the Tommy Westphal universe. So, yeah.
We also have Mark Marlios as Neil Apgar. They first appeared in some films in the 70s, had supporting roles in movies like Scarface, as well as the TV show Quantum Leap. He's best known for playing Hector Salamanca in Breaking Bad and in Better Call Saul. It's hard to recognize him, because he doesn't talk in Breaking Bad.
Except in like one episode, but it's flashback, so, maybe 2 episodes.
So he's really good at playing characters in flashbacks. Since in this episode he's basically dead the entire time.
Yeah, so I guess I most recently saw him in an episode of Snowpiercer there. I think he ends his life, so
So being dead,
a weird trend here.
Good at being dead and similar.
Yeah, well, he was also in Immortals.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he was immortal, though.
Oh, so there you go. In comparison, I also have Jean Hatchett as Mona Apgar. Her first and one of her best-known roles was as Jane Da Vinci in Mork and Mindy, which was like a weird spin-off show of a spin-off show. So
yes.
She also had appearances in the shows Baywatch and in Seinfeld, as well as in a lot of films like Night Shift and St. Elmo's Fire, a lot of stuff that I just, I've never seen. Sorry, I'm not very familiar with that era of movies.
Yeah, it's fine. I guess the only one you really have to watch is The Breakfast Club, and if you're okay with some weirdness, weird science. But anyway, she was also in Trapper John MD and Saint Elsewhere.
Oh no.
We're back. Connecting it all. It's all hallucination.
That's why they keep having the same actors over and over.
Menorah in the middle? Huh.
Finally, got Julia Donald as Tanya. She began acting as a voice actor, working on anime dubs in the 70s and 80s. Her first film role was the character Jenny in The Muppets Take Manhattan. And she's then had many TV appearances in shows like Riptide, Superboy, The Law, and and well, no, that's one show. Sorry, I thought this was 2 shows in my notes. No, it's The Law and Harry McGraw.
It was also in an episode of Babylon 5 and Star Trek Borg, the video game.
Oof. Yeah, video game voice acting is a big thing for a lot of these guys, too.
Lupin III, the Castle of Cagliostro.
So that's our cast. And now we have story happening.
But which story?
Well, we don't have that yet. Because we start in an art class where the captain is painting a model in a very weird style that Data evaluates. He evaluates everyone's work, and he goes like, oh, this person's doing a fun thing with cubism, and this person's doing a fun thing with something else. You're mixing a bunch of stuff that's not juxtaposing very well, and I kind of low-key hate it.
Yep. Data's expression here is priceless. Like, Data, are you sure you can't feel emotions? Because, this look is just, yeah.
And also, it's foreshadowing the episode of how people can see things from different perspectives.
Dun, dun, dun. It's all coming together, man.
My God. LaForge returns from a mission that he and Riker were on to evaluate a revolutionary power source that a Dr. Apgar is working on. Apgar asks to talk to Riker alone. Riker returns, but only just, because the station explodes while he's mid-transport.
Yes, and our forever guest star Cole Meany is like, I'm trying to get him on, and okay, he's here, and he looks confused.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, you barely made it out alive. It's like, what now?
What do you mean explosion?
Picard wants to know what happened because everything about this mission was weird. Right? Geordi got sent back alone. Things were strange. There was an explosion. The planet is sending up a chief investigator, Craig. He is here to bring Riker into custody on suspicion of murder.
Oh my. Well, I guess that is something to be investigated here. Also, I guess they haven't really done much investigating of the space station, have they? Or is this like all happening off scene, and the Enterprise is just like, well, it exploded. These things happened. We're not going to investigate ourselves.
Yeah, sounds like. I mean, there's not much left of the space station, it seems. One of those very clean Star Trek explosions where there's no debris.
Yes. It's like, it just gets all annihilated by antimatter. It just, it's fine.
Picard goes and has a talk with Craig, who wants to insist on taking Riker back to the planet. Picard does have final say over extradition of his officers, though, so he will decide if Riker's getting taken to the planet. They will recreate the events of what happened to the station based on eyewitness testimony on the holodeck, and Craig agrees that will be an acceptable arrangement and brings the witnesses to the ship and schematics and all kinds of junk.
Yeah, we're going to basically recreate the space. We're going to recreate the events, and everyone's going to input their version of events into people's mouths and how they act, and and we're going to use, I guess, far future AI to extrapolate everything else.
That seems to be the thing. Yeah. Also, they have a guilty until proven innocent system. It doesn't really come up much, but
just one of those the terrible ones you get in Star Trek. It's like everyone's judicial system sucks. Unless they're here to lecture us about, putting people in prison, I guess.
I did think that one was not. I forget which episode it was. They had the we have an innocent until proven guilty system. It's like, but then you're putting innocent people on trial. That sounds immoral.
Well, we're trying to demonstrate if they're guilty or not, and then that's the determination of the guilt.
So Picard, Troy, Riker, and Craig sit down in the holodeck recreation of the station's science lab, which has a big central thingy.
Well, those central thingies are kind of a habit for these particular models of space stations. This is the same model of space station that was used in Star Trek too.
Yeah. So I just want you to imagine there's a big central doohickey. It's got some balls on it. A doohickey with some balls, and then there's just a bunch of computers around, and that's like 90% of the sets in this episode.
Yes.
Doohickey will be important later.
Yes. It's a science thing, you see.
So Riker and Geordi beam aboard. Dr. Apgar is upset that the Federation has arrived early because he needs more time to make his Krieger waves work, which is this revolutionary power source doodah thingy.
Krieger.
Oh, Mona, who's Apgar's wife, shows up. She's trying to be a bit more sociable since her husband is clearly only interested in science and whatever. But sociable means she's clearly hitting on Riker.
Yes. Like, hey, we're gonna, he's gonna science us up. What you doing tonight? Just with my eyes.
So she takes them all back for drinks, toasts to the rewards of Apgar's research. Riker tells them the Enterprise has already left, but they've made arrangements to stay on the planet. But Mona insists that they stay on the space station. She takes Riker to the guest quarters, locks him inside, and starts taking her clothes off. Riker is quite insistent that nothing's going to happen. Then Apgar shows up being really angry and tries to hit Riker and threatens to report him.
And there's a little bit of attempted scuffle, but
So then Geordi leaves. Apgar tries to tell Riker that they need supplies and time. Riker goes, I don't need to hear any of your excuses, and beams back to the ship. And as far as Riker's concerned, that's everything that happened.
Yep. So, I wasn't there when he was murdered, so, we're good to go, right?
Craig goes, oh, so you didn't leave out anything? Like the fact that you fired a phaser seconds before leaving the ship?
What? Phaser? Did I even have a phaser?
Yeah, so they detected a focused energy beam coming from exactly where Commander Riker was standing, and plays his theory of Riker shooting the station just as the transporter starts, causing an explosion in what has to be the dumbest way to try to murder someone in history.
Yes. It's like, oh, yes, I need to get the timing of this perfect, otherwise I just murder myself.
Yeah,
so,
you have to, fire the phaser late enough that you get beamed out early enough that you're still corporeal enough to fire a phaser, and also enough that you somehow have time to then put the phaser away, get back into proper beaming position, and then get beamed off so that nobody notices that you're holding a phaser.
Yes.
There are so many holes in this theory. It is insane that nobody brings up even a single one.
Yeah, this is a bit of a fiction you've come up with in order to try to, fit some gaps in your knowledge here. So maybe we should look at things that are actual evidence, maybe.
Yeah. As we will see, this planet's entire system of justice seems to be based almost completely on eyewitness testimonies.
Which is a big red flag.
Oh, now Geordi, Data, and Wesley agree that the station sensors do show an energy beam coming from Riker's position, so they need to work out what it was and clear his name, because he definitely didn't do this, as far as they know, because he's a nice guy.
Well, that's maybe, not a very good end justification, but, actually looking into the things that maybe actually happened is a good idea.
He's also a main character.
Yes. No, if you're going to write a main character off, mid-season, it does happen sometimes. It kind of happened last season, or in the first season of Star Trek TNG, so,
Yeah, another one's safe on TNG.
Everybody can die.
There's also some sort of radiation. They don't know what it is. It's coming from one of the cargo bays, and it melted a big hole in the wall.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to have random radiation popping up in the ship, we should maybe, I don't know, try to look for a source and, at the very least, maybe change our orbit.
No.
Okay.
We're just going to wait and see if it happens again. So, Craig's brought on Mona so that she can give her view of events as an eyewitness to the situation.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, have at it.
Yeah, Mona's story. So before Riker arrives, she and Dr. Apgar are having a pep talk about how much they love each other, how he's going to give her everything she's ever wanted as soon as he's done with his work. Riker arrives and is obviously eyeing up Mona the entire time they're talking.
Well, that's awkward. Wait a moment. She can't see her own eyes, can she? So she can't have an eyewitness testimony for her own reaction.
Yeah.
Riker, why don't you bring that up?
This time, Apgar is less upset at their early arrival, and Riker insists that they stay on the station.
That's a little different, yes.
So when she shows Riker to his room, he locks the door and grabs her. Then Apgar arrives and beats him up.
Well, I know, Riker might not want to, get in a scuffle with an older fellow here and, accidentally break him up. But Riker's kind of a really huge person.
Yeah.
So, this is a little silly in terms of how the throwdown goes.
And Riker tells Apgar that if he reports this, he's a dead man. It would be a huge mistake. Also, another piece of actual, tangible, physical evidence that you could use, because if someone had just gotten beaten up 2 days beforehand, the doctor should be able to tell whether someone was punched in the stomach or had minor internal damage from a fight.
All right, so let's get Riker over to the sickbay and get him scanned up.
They freeze the program and go, everything else from here on out's about the same. Mona's obviously upset. She says that Apgar would have forgotten all about the thing and wouldn't have reported him, and that killing him was so unnecessary, and she and Craig leave. So Riker asks Troy why she can't sense that Mona's lying, and she says they're both telling the truth the way they remember it.
Oh no. Troy, your superpower that justifies you, being in here in this the first place, it's completely useless because everyone remembers things in a kind of wonky way, I guess.
Yeah. Also, this is going to cause some weird problems that we're going to get to later, but that's for later. In sickbay, Crusher's taking care of some, minor injuries, just normal everyday stuff, and then they are immediately ordered to evacuate because of radiation.
Radiation thing's back. Oh, wait, this explains why Riker can't get scanned by Crusher and get actual hard evidence.
Yeah, they could have maybe brought that up. I mean, they have tricorders.
Now we have to have the full body scan.
Data, Wesley, and Geordi determine that this is the same kind of radiation that happened before. Also, the time between the two radiation bursts is 5 hours, 20 minutes, and 3 seconds, which is the same interval that the station exploded, which is a weird coincidence to work out after, like, 2 times, but okay.
Yeah.
Like, you need at least 3 things to happen. They did, like, say the station exploded and this, but there was also, like, a variance in the time that the station exploded. Like, the station didn't explode exactly this time interval away, so it's a little weird to be drawing this connection.
Oh, the difference is, like, very small, though. So, like, like, this is, it's not exact, but it's so close that it's like margin of error almost.
Yeah,
so
it still feels a little weird for them to go, this thing has happened 2 times, and it was this far apart. So that's just any 2 things that happen.
Well, okay.
All right, finally, the inspector is here to show the simulation based on Tanya's testimony, who is Dr. Apgar's assistant, who was not there.
Well, she was there for some of the earlier stuff, but not there at the end.
The very early things, but she wasn't around for any of the important bits, but apparently Apgar told her what happened, and on this planet's weird wonky system, this counts as eyewitness testimony.
Well, I guess because he's dead, he can't be an eyewitness testimony person himself, so this may be fitting in one of those hearsay exceptions.
Yep. It's definitely hearsay, but they're like, nope, this is totally hard evidence. This is the only hard evidence. What's physical evidence? Go away. So, we skipped the intro, because that's not important, I guess. We're back at the guest rooms. This time, Riker and Mori are just making out. Just full-on making out.
Yeah, face on face, and everything's good to go.
Apgar enters and beats up Riker. Riker yells that he's a dead man, and then later Apgar tells Tanya to go back to the planet with Mona. She says she left and then found out that the station exploded and knew that Riker did it.
Oh, just my brain is just like going, yeah, he totally murdered him, and I wasn't even there, but I know it for sure because I am me.
Yeah, he just had those murder vibes, you know?
Yeah.
So Picard's upset because even though they know Riker's innocent, all the evidence that they have is going to make it hard for him to not allow extradition, and there may not be enough evidence to prove he's innocent because, you're not looking for any.
Yes.
You have several ways that you could very easily poke holes in these testimonies if you wanted to.
Yeah, this gets back to that whole, guilty until proven innocent problem that if you assume people are guilty, then you might not do the legwork, to provide evidence for the case.
Yeah, there's the was he beaten up, which should be really easy to tell, especially with their level of medical science. Also, when they transported him, they went, hey, there's a weird energy spike we've never seen before. Not, hey, someone's firing a phaser.
Yeah.
Which they've done several times. They transported people and go like, hey, there's an active weapon.
Yeah, they can pick that sort of thing up and basically disperse that energy without anyone being, hurt in the process.
Yeah. But anyway, Data has good news. They've found out what the radiation is. And it's Krieger waves.
Krieger waves? Like that mountains in the northern Ellesmere Island, Nunavut, Canada.
Yeah, those wavy mountains.
Yes.
Also, Wesley knows who killed Dr. Apgar.
Wesley knows, just like the technician, that lady, right? Or does he have evidence?
No, he just knows.
Oh, okay.
Probably. He's got a vibe. This is a vibe-based judicial system.
Just, whatever feels like the right answer, that's what we're going to go with here today.
Trial by combat was barbaric, but trial by vibe.
It's the wave of the future, man.
So Picard gets everyone back into the holodeck, and he goes, isn't it interesting that we've seen this so many times, but we still don't know what happened? So let me show you.
Jordy, it's time for your testimony. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Actually, you're not going to be important for this part.
He calls up everyone's version of events. Apgar says he never created Krieger waves, but they know he did because they detected Krieger waves. It's been happening.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, recreating the lab in the holodeck was so exact that the thing's basically just designed as a big focusing mirror crystal thing. And there's a generator on the planet that's still sending out bursts of energy that were supposed to be picked up by the station. And they recreated it so exactly that energy is being converted into Krieger waves.
Oh, it's kind of amazing that holodecks are able to do that, I guess. But I guess if it's all about the geometry, then that works.
Yeah.
Not the substance that you're using for that geometry.
Or it's not a very special substance, I guess.
Maybe the substance is like, I don't know, aluminum.
Yeah.
or paper mache or whatever they made the centerpiece out of.
Yeah, plastic Christmas decorations.
In the future, we figured out new uses for this old technology. This is a piece of plastic. Yes. It's just a particular shape. Yes.
It's super rare now, because we stopped using petroleum.
Yeah, so we need to import it from the petroleum planet.
And that's where Armis is hanging out, so. Also, in other testimonies, Apgar keeps saying that his work is going to reward them with wealth and power and other things. But apparently the Federation pays like shit.
Yes.
So, what kind of wealth? We know how much money we're giving this guy.
We know it's not much. It's like a Burger King meal, not the money for it, but just the meal. And a gold watch.
We're the Federation. We all work to better ourselves and the world around us.
And so, this guy, he's not on board with that. He wants wealth and power, and I guess that was something to tempt him. Okay.
Yeah. So, a power source, not very profitable. But if he made it into, a weapon and sold it to someone, that might be pretty profitable.
Especially since this device seems capable of... shooting the waves through shields and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, kind of melting parts of the ship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not a very big area, but, if you do it en masse, it might be something.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very useful considering you have to, set it up in orbit and then charge a generator and then shoot the generator at a space station.
And, you just have to keep your orbit basically in this one place here. And, the Enterprise has been doing that for reasons. So
after Apgar tells Tanya to leave, we see him messing with a computer, and she says, "Oh, he's turning the generator on. I guess maybe he wanted to do experiments later or something."
Interesting.
Then, at the very end, when Riker's leaving, he says he doesn't need to hear any excuses, which probably confirmed Apgar's fears that he knew that he was making it into a weapon.
Oh no. So, what are you going to do then? Clearly Riker hasn't talked to Geordi about any of this, so
yeah.
Dealing with him alone is all you need to do, right?
So, what they've done now is program the holodeck to sync up with the generator on the planet so that they can try to recreate exactly what led to the thing being destroyed. So, the thing starts again. Riker begins to beam away. Apgar activates the generator and shoots a beam at Riker, trying to make it look like a transporter accident. But instead, the beam bounces off the transporter and reflects back into the generator, blowing up the station.
Well, that's kind of cool. Also, the holodeck safeties keep them all from dying due to explosion.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah, and the table is real, so, it just sits there.
It's like, all right, so we need a table in the holodeck. Well, why don't you just use the holodeck for it? Well, the table might get exploded.
Yeah, they bring in non-holographic furniture for important things, so you don't have that embarrassing situation where your chair suddenly disappears out from under you when the power fails.
Chair offline.
And this is not eyewitness testimony, which seems to be the only thing they care about, so Craig erects Riker anyway. Now, Craig formally withdraws his request. Riker gets to stay.
Yeah, well, I guess you've come up with something that is reliable enough compared to what we've got so far, so I guess, this trial's not going to go anywhere now.
He's like, what is this, physical evidence? That seems different than eyewitness testimony. I'm confused.
Well, you just witnessed it yourself, so you have eyewitness of yourself doing it, yes?
Yeah. And then Riker orders the ship to get the hell out of there.
Which kind of mirrors his line when he's asking to be beamed down. It's like, get me out of here now. So, did you remember the episode different than the last time you'd seen it?
No, not really. This episode's always been a bit of an oof.
Yeah, so shall we go right into it? And it's like, perspective on potential sexual assault or harassment or something.
You've got a particular problem because they wrote themselves out of it by going, but we can prove that he didn't blow up the station though with other things.
So, we know that he didn't blow up the station. But what about the other stuff?
Yeah. But, like, all of the eyewitness testimony, the entire bit of evidence against him, and the reason that he would be motivated to murder Apgar in the first place, his entire motivation, is that he was trying to do something with Apgar's wife.
Yeah.
Like, the first one, Riker's testimony, is that she was hitting on him, and so he wouldn't have any particular motivation because it was all one-sided. It was all her. He had no interest, and he would have no reason to be worried about Apgar.
So, this is A-okay. She's coming on to me. So, right?
Yeah.
That's totally what happened, for sure.
Version 2 and 3 are either they had some sort of consensual affair, which is Apgar's version, as told through Talia.
And that's totally what happened, for sure, right?
Yeah, that's the Apgar version. They had some sort of consensual thing. Or her version, which is he basically tried to rape her until Apgar appeared and saved her.
And that's totally what happened, right?
The problem is that this doesn't make any sense, because the only other thing that we are told about this entire situation is that both Mona and Riker completely believe the version of events that they are saying.
Mm-hmm. Which is a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, because there's not really a way that makes sense for that unless somebody was sexually assaulted.
Yeah. And it's just a question of which one it was. There might be a weird middle ground where neither one of them felt they could say no.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense in this situation.
Yeah.
Like, you can have a thing where both people feel a significant amount of general social pressure and don't communicate with each other enough to realize that neither person is actually that into the situation. And then both of them are just doing a thing that they regret doing later.
Yes. And there's also the weird detail of who locked the door and stuff, because they both claim the other did it. And then you're like, okay, so you can try to dig down to some of these specifics here, which kind of blows that out of the water in terms of, plausibility, because like somebody had to lock the door, but who?
But like the way that this works, the way that we know this kind of difference in recollection actually works in cases of actual sexual assault is one person will usually believe that everything is going fine and normally, and the other person will not be into it and feel that the way that they're trying to communicate that is being ignored.
Yeah.
You have plenty of examples of this that are pretty bad. They're pretty awful most of the time. It usually gets into like the way that men are taught to interact with women sexually, especially in heteronormative relationships, is to ignore a lot of social cues. Like, men are explicitly told to ignore a lot of social cues. So it is very common and easy to get into a situation where a guy thought he was doing exactly what he's been told to do and what people are supposed to do in that situation, and the woman was not into it at all and had all of the ways that she said she was not into it completely ignored.
Yeah, all that crap of, women always play hard to get. No, there are plenty of women that are saying no because they do not want to have sex with you. So, maybe listen to them.
Now, this also does happen the other way, because we are all taught that men are always interested in sex.
Which is not true.
Yeah. So there are also plenty of instances where a woman will just assume that a man will be into anything that she does, and anything the guy says against it is, I don't know, some sort of feeble protest or lying because he's always going to be into sexual things.
Or, trying to come up with an excuse for some, reason, that they're feeling a social pressure, but they do actually certainly want it. Totally. Yeah, for realsies.
The actual rates of these things are very difficult to parse. I've seen everything from it's about half as likely for men to it's about on par, possibly due to underreporting. The way that we do these studies, the fact that people don't tend to want to look into sexual assault on men because it doesn't go with our general narrative of, men are always into sexual things happening to them.
And, if you're a guy and you are, sort of that perspective that, guys are always up for sex and you feel that you didn't want it, you might feel a pressure to still go for what's going on, even though you don't want it.
Yeah.
And so sort of like, after the fact, if someone asks you if it was, consensual, you're going to be like, oh yeah, totally. Because, that's what is expected of me, to always say yes.
And we haven't had that kind of re-examination on that side, where we are starting to re-examine the fact that we should be ignoring women when they say that they're not interested in having sex with someone. But we aren't really re-examining that men always want sex and are always interested in sexual attention.
There's plenty of days where I'm like, wow, I'm really into looking at this pile of computer code here. What? People are flirting with me? Why? And also know a number of folks who are, ace or asexual. They are interested in any sexual contact generally, and it kind of freaks them out in some cases. It's like, I just don't feel comfortable with any of that sort of contact, so could you please stop touching me, or even please, stop hitting on me because it's not going to go anywhere. So the folks, there are times when people are interested in sex, and there are times people are not interested in sex, and sometimes there's people that are not interested in it ever, and there are some people that are always good to go, but you need to figure out, how to communicate with each other properly in order to determine if somebody's okay with this, what might be about to happen. And if they're not, back off.
Yes. So the general point is, in a lot of cases of sexual assault, where these are cases of the weird gray areas that people love to talk about, where nobody exactly did anything malicious.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of instances where someone intentionally did a terrible thing to another person because they wanted to exert power, they liked the fact that they could do it, all kinds of really shitty reasons that someone might want to use sexual aggression in order to purposely inflict harm on another person, be it physically or psychologically.
Yes, these things happen, and it sucks.
The thing that we're talking about here, where both people are going to have a different recollection of what is happening, which we can say neither of them are lying, because the episode explicitly told us neither of them are lying.
Mm-hmm.
So we are dealing with a difference in recollection. When people are dealing with a different recollection, this is often when no one had ill intent, and it was a complete breakdown of communication because of the way that we tell heteronormative couples to communicate.
Okay, badly.
Yes.
Yeah. I brought up during the synopsis, the difficulty of observing your own expressions as well. That, she could see Riker's sort of gazing at her. Riker could see her gazing at him, but they can't necessarily recall their own expressions, in either case, which, in terms of their own testimony there is, seems to seem that the other one is always the aggressor here. But if they were both telling the truth, both of these were what they were doing, then at that point, early in the interactions, it would definitely, come off as a sort of a mutual, I'm eyeing you up sort of thing. And thus, it could very easily, morph into, neither actually wanting to do it, but feeling that it is sort of expected at this point.
But none of this makes sense because this is an affair that both of them know is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a normal social situation where both people feel some amount of pressure to perform for the other person. This is a situation where neither of them should come in with the expectation that anything is going to happen between the two of them.
Indeed. So, this complicates things in a really weird way.
So the only way that this works is either they were both consensually into this affair, or one of them thought everything was fine and the other one didn't, and there was such a mismatch of communication that it wound up with a unintentional but still viably bad sexual assault on one of them.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that we run into is because nobody thought through this in the 80s and 90s. No one gave this a second thought at all. This is just some weird tropes. But because they threw a telepath in here, it all falls apart because you are never going to have a situation like this where both people remember being sexually assaulted by the other person. Mm-hmm. We do have the one scenario that I've heard of in heteronormative couples, especially, where you're not communicating to the point where you both feel pressured by the other person to do a thing that they're not into, because we have a societal expectation that that's the way sex is supposed to work. But this is not that situation, because she's married and no one would be coming into this situation expecting that they are going to hook up.
Yeah.
You could have that expectation as I'm going to seduce this married woman, or I'm a bored married woman and I'm going to seduce this guy, but you're not both going to come into that expectation and remember it as anything other than consensual if you both came in with that expectation.
Yeah.
But that expectation is the only way that it makes sense that this would have happened if they both did it.
Yeah. So they are in a quantum superposition of wanting it and not wanting it for weird reasons.
Which, otherwise, one of them would be lying, but Troy said they both believe what they're saying.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Which is, again, why I kind of poke at the button pushing thing, that, there is a clear, X versus Y sort of situation that, it's like, okay, if they are not lying, then one of them at the very least is remembering things incorrectly.
But also, they very definitely didn't lock the door, because Apgar just walks right the hell in.
Yes. So maybe the trick is neither of them press the button, which also doesn't make sense.
There was a really good interview that I feel like really sums up the way that we have to look at these things, because this is just an old courtroom trope, right? Mm-hmm. Someone was sexually assaulted. Which of them is lying? It's the entire thing that we were critiquing with the, believe women stuff we were doing with Me Too a few years ago. Mm-hmm. That,
and would be nice to continue to do.
But feminism failed, etc., etc. We're all in the dark times.
Again.
I'm joking. I'm sorry. I don't know. People kept talking about how feminism failed when the Supreme Court overturned shit, and did we all forget that we still have to work at things?
Yeah. That people having big, causing, terrible setbacks for, our rights in general is not a reason to give up fighting for them. So why would you declare something has failed when we're not, all dead and not fighting?
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but anyway, that's neither here nor there for this.
Yeah, it's one of the, random things that are, hooked onto the central snarl.
Yeah, this is an old shitty courtroom trope that they used a lot. The woman came on to this guy and then later lied that he was the one who raped her in order to cover up her indiscretions. Oh my god, she's besmirching this poor dude's name. It's a really shitty trope that should have died a long time ago, but it's still getting used in this because it's the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. So just kind of sucks. The problem is that they didn't examine it. Because there was that interview I was talking about with the creator of Lovecraft Country, which I haven't seen personally. It looks interesting. I haven't gotten a chance to see it. But it takes Lovecraft stories, which are unavoidably racist, and puts them in the South during a racist time period, and then examines those stories in a racial context. And the creator said that the reason that he did that is because you have these tropes that are at the core of your storytelling, especially in horror. Said Lovecraft is such a fundamental, unavoidable part of horror writing that those tropes, those racist things that he put into horror stories, exist. And the only choice you have is whether or not you're going to examine them.
Yes.
So if you're dealing with this stuff in a courtroom drama, you've brought this trope in, it exists, and your choice is whether or not you're going to examine the trope or just let it sit there. And they chose to just let it sit there and be a wet blanket and cause so many plot holes that this thing doesn't even make sense. It's not even an enjoyable courtroom drama. It's not building suspense. It's just stupid. The whole thing is just stupid.
I think at the very least, they could have talk a little bit more about the fallibility of memory, that they might think they're both telling the truth, but they're both wrong in some capacity, that they, that their memories, are malleable about trying to, recall things perfectly. There might be also complications with the recreation if the computer's filling in details that they didn't specify, for instance. There could be a sort of a feedback loop that them seeing what's going on, it's like, oh yeah, that's totally how I remember things, when it wasn't how they remembered things before seeing the recreation. And so there could be a whole thing about, that we can't really rely on this testimony from either side here in terms of, what actually happened at some of these key moments. So we do need to, again, eject this whole relying fully on witness testimony and actually get some hard evidence.
See, that's very obviously what they were going for, except for the hard evidence part. They were very obviously going for, you can both remember the same thing completely differently, and neither of you is lying. Mm-hmm. That is a very true statement. It is a big problem with eyewitness testimony, as you were pointing out. Mm-hmm. That's obviously kind of what they were going for. Both of you can see the whole thing, a matter of perspective. You can have different perspectives on the same situation. Except in the one thing that they explicitly told us they're not lying about, because it logically doesn't make any sense that anyone could convince themselves that was happening.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like, things could deviate a certain degree, but it would require both of them to have major mental breaks from, what was established before, for them to both believe this is true about their own testimony program here, which maybe Riker's head got scrambled in the transporter and she was on a lot of drugs, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, at the very least, this is something that feels like it would take months, right? A fresh memory like that, you're going to have to be doing something pretty intense to have convinced yourself that you sexually assaulting someone or a consensual relationship was you being sexually assaulted.
Yes.
Like, if it's a consensual relationship, neither of them has any particular reason to remember it being non-consensual. They have an incentive to tell people it was non-consensual, but they don't have an incentive to specifically convince themselves it was non-consensual. And you certainly wouldn't change a memory up like that in the matter of days that we're talking about. This is like 1 or 2 days after the fact. Yes. Several months down the line, when you've remembered it and re-remembered it and rewritten it 24 times, maybe you would have convinced yourself that something completely different happened, because that's how memory works. But like 2 days after the fact, you're not going to have this large of a split.
Yes.
You're like, eyewitness testimony being a problem is shit like no one can remember what color a car was. Not one of you saw a car accident and the other one thinks it was a puppy.
Yes. Oh, I saw a puppy fall over. Did you see the Nissan? The puppy was called Nissan? What? They tried for something. They screwed up the landing and caused all sorts of weird consequences that are just really blah tropes from the era. So, hey, Ed, go back and rewrite this. Make the episode better retroactively somehow.
Yeah, just go fix this.
Hey, Ed, that's maybe a great thing to do. We could have a whole, shooting of the episodes, like, we could zoom out from, a screen and that was playing the episode, and Picard and Riker look at each other, now of course older, and it's like, and they both go, that's not how I remember it.
Now, you know what would be great? The only thing that would actually work, you wouldn't have to change anything. You would have to change Troy's one line. Mm-hmm. You would just have to go, I can sense that neither of you are representing the truth completely accurately. But, yes. That's all I can tell. I can't really tell how.
So, I have reason to doubt both your perspectives, and...
Which makes sense, because, both of you have an incentive that we can clearly see to not represent this accurately.
Though there is maybe an alternative. Troy just wasn't actually paying attention at the time,
Yeah.
and she's trying to cover it up.
Yeah, she was daydreaming during this, and she was just thinking about chocolate.
Yeah, and chocolate. I wonder if Inspector Crag likes chocolate. He seems the type.
And I was like, can't you tell she was lying?
What?
What lie? Yeah, you both were telling the truth as you remember it. Yeah, that sounds like a counselor thing to say.
Everyone, hug it out. Okay, maybe that'll be a terrible idea, actually.
Yeah, you should make them hug each other, and then she can sense which one of them feels the most uncomfortable.
That sounds both terrible but effective.
Yeah, I think it's unethical, but when you're working with a mind reader, it might work.
Maybe we have a test, but it requires this. Would you consent to this? Yes or no? I can't explain what the test is until we're done. Just trust us.
Yeah. So we've moved from someone who was sexually assaulted needs to give testimony directly in front of the person who sexually assaulted them, which is where we started this whole thing way back with like the 3rd episode of original series.
Yes. It's like, it's Ego Kirk versus Super Ego Kirk, and id is also partially. Anyway.
And now we've gotten to both of you were lying about sexual assault in completely contradictory ways that don't make any sense, but are definitely, given the way we've presented this and given who the main character is throwing doubt on the woman in the situation, which is the shittiest part of this whole thing. None of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense that either of them would remember it this way, but the way that the episode is framing it, she's definitely supposed to be the one who's lying, because we all know Riker. He's not that kind of guy.
Yeah. He's a ladies' man, but he's not that kind of ladies' man, right?
Yeah, he would never do that.
Yeah, but I'm feeling uncomfortable in all this. Can we move on?
I guess, I guess there's only so long that we could talk about unexamined sexism in the 80s. And 90s, and early 2000s,
the 90s in this
and
case,
late 2000s, and mid 2000s, and the early 2010s, the late 2010s, and the early
today.
2020s.
Yeah.
Probably the late 2020s, but I guess you never know.
Yeah. Maybe we'll finally get our heads out of our collective asses on this one.
Maybe.
It's going to require a bit of a like crane, maybe, or
I don't know. We get to see whether sexism prevents us from having the first female president again.
That is a good question here. Yeah. So we got the future to worry about, and hopefully it's a good outcome that isn't terrible.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say, or I'll be depressing.
Yeah, same here. So shall we get our musical cue on?
Oh, we have a musical cue, like how we do when it's the Galaxy's favorite game show!
Woo!
Royalty-free music!
Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's favorite game show. Today we got some contestants here. We're keeping them separated at the moment just to avoid some potential issues here. But we have various points to hand out here. The first one is the Deus Accident Prize, which goes to Dr. Apgar for getting himself killed while trying to murder Riker. Whoops, what does he win, Gepwin?
He wins the patented Krieger Boomerang. You shoot the energy away and it comes back to you.
That seems inconvenient if you don't want to be shot by an energy beam.
Yeah, I can't do the Swedish chef accent, or I throw the fish away and it comes back to me.
I've tried to do it myself, but I think I would sound racist. So anyway, let's move on.
That's also not the Swedish chef. That's that other dude. The weird dude with the mustache who's hanging around the Swedish chef.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
That guy. 10 points to whoever can name that Muppet.
I've got a friend who could probably help me out there. Our next prize is the TV love story, sort of, for Manua, Apgar, and Riker. Kind of after fashion. It's really weird and uncomfortable, and we don't actually know what's going on. Just, because, neither of them knows what's up, and the instigator, of it, we don't know. we spent half our episode already talking about this. So what do they win, Gepwin, over this horrible trope?
They win the super progressive future where polyamory is so normalized that there was such an implicit expectation that they would have an affair that both of them felt enough social pressure from it that this makes any kind of sense.
Yeah. Maybe we can retroactively make her a Denobulan, maybe? I don't know.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to throw the polyamorous people under the bus. I think it's great, but, like, we can't... Like, it's the only way that this makes sense is if there's enough social pressure for them both to remember the situation, and the only way that makes sense is if polyamory has become such a norm that it's weird and awkward not to do it.
Indeed. So, but we don't have any hints that that's a thing in Star Trek at this point. So, awkwardness. Our final prize today is the Space Hop Pothole Prize, which goes to the Enterprise in total because it keeps on flying through the death beam generated by the Krieger wave things, and space is kind of big, so they must be basically doing this intentionally to keep running into it. So yeah. What does the Enterprise win, Gepwin?
They win space infrastructure. As someone who lives in New York, I'm very familiar with the pothole problem, and you don't drive into them intentionally. It's drive into the pothole or you crash into the thing next to you. So they need better space infrastructure.
So, planet with Krieger wave generator, get on that. That's all I got here for this week, Gepwin. This has been just one of the most... I'm feeling a downer coming, but we're trying to be happy here, the Galaxy's favorite game show. Help me get back up to my good mood.
Yeah, thank you for joining us right after we demonstrate that even the episodes that seem like they're not saying much are actually sexist. Yeah. On the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! So, that was an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, it was not a good one.
Yeah.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you aren't intentionally trying to say shit. This is why you need to be intentional when you're storytelling with what you're trying to say. Because if you just storytell without any intentionality, it just flies off the rails into something that you definitely didn't intend it to be saying.
Indeed. So, be careful about that, folks. Try to have a point you're trying to make, and, be mindful of the ones you might accidentally make.
Yes. So what we just hit was Watches of Tomorrow, episode 189, which not only is way too many episodes of this show for anyone, and I hope someone's still listening somewhere.
We love you.
But we also have a little tradition for anybody who came in recently, possibly with RoboCop. I'm hoping RoboCop is a good onboarding for people.
Yeah, that's a good option there.
Every 10 episodes, we do a movie to keep ourselves from going insane from pointing out Star Trek sexism, so we can point out other sci-fi properties' sexism and colonialism and general racism.
Yeah, and so we can have a different way of talking about it, and... Gepwin, whose episode is it to pick the movie?
Oh, it's your episode to pick the movie, which means we're probably going to wind up with something that's like half animated in VR, or a weird thing from the 80s that no one remembers.
Well, this is a weird thing from the 90s, I think it was, and there is some animation in it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Some animation from the 90s, like hand-drawn animation?
Yeah.
So it's not all animated, so you're not forcing us to do... You're not forcing us to do heavy metal yet.
No. That would be 80s again. Though I could always do rock and roll instead and surprise you.
Sci-fi partially animated from the 80s. It depends how partially.
90s.
90s, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit animated.
Okay. So
there is some stills, I believe, as well.
Stills.
Like a comic book sort of thing.
Sci-fi comic book movie from the 90s. Okay, no. I'm drawing blanks, unless it's the Warriors, but I think that was earlier. And
only the Warriors come out to play, I think it was like late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s. Also, only the shitty director's cut leaned into the comic book stuff.
All right, well, all right, so here's a hint. There's a few famous people that are in this one, such as Malcolm McDowell, Ice-T,
Ice-T.
Yeah. And Lori Petty.
No,
James Hong?
What? Okay, not... I have no idea. They've been in too many things. Time
Doug
After Time
Jones.
is from the 70s. Yeah. Which, like, that one
Naomi
sounds
Watts?
interesting. I guess I
for some
probably
reason-
don't know this one.
Oh, I think you will. Also, it features a tank.
Oh, wait. Tank Girl did have like, comic book stills, didn't it?
Yep. We're going to do Tank
Yes.
Girl. It's a dystopian punk stuff going on, and, it kind of kicked off in a comic book. Yeah, I feel like doing something fun that also is sci-fi, and, lets us go, let's, like, fight, evil people that are trying to, like, control our lives.
Yeah, Tank Girl. Tank Girl is so weird. The main thing that I have with Tank Girl is I definitely saw League of Their Own so many times first. So I was so much more familiar with her from League of Their Own, and then it's just suddenly this, like, unhinged fucking psycho movie. It's like, when the hell?
Yep. It's like, this is a bit of change of pace here. Tune in next time for a bit of post-apocalyptic running around in the desert
That's
with
gotta be fun.
military hardware.
I'm interested to see how you recap a musical number.
Well, I have technically done that before, but I kept it pretty short because, Rocky Horror just has so many.
Yeah. Rocky Horror had way too many musical numbers for that one.
But yeah, so tune in next time for She's Just a Girl. She's Just a Girl. Tank Girl, specifically. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, blast the system! Wah! You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Izixs, on youtube.com/Dr. Izixs and Twitter @IzixsLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.